My family ghosted my daughter's birthday again. No one showed up. But 4 days later, I received a notification. $2,900 had been withdrawn from my card. I called, but no one answered. So I sent a short message. Wait for a call from my lawyer. 10 minutes later, the family chat exploded. My sister was screaming in voice messages, and then my dad. My daughter was quiet the whole evening. She kept glancing at the gate, expecting someone to walk through it. Her cousins, maybe, or at least her grandparents. She asked me a few times if I thought they were stuck in traffic. I didn't have the heart to tell her they weren't coming. My husband tried to cheer her up, got her to blow out the candles and open presents. She smiled, but it wasn't the real kind. It was the kind you put on because someone tells you to. She didn't say it out loud, but I knew what she was thinking. Why didn't they come? They always say, family is everything, when they want something from me. But when it's about her, suddenly they're too busy. We had set up the backyard the day before. Balloons, streamers, a new basketball hoop. It wasn't extravagant, just something fun for a 9-year-old who'd been talking about this birthday since April. A few of her classmates came, which helped save the mood. The cake was her favorite. Cookies and cream. We had a little speaker playing music. If you walked past, it probably looked like a good time. But I saw how many times she looked at the gate, how her eyes lit up every time someone arrived, and then dimmed when it wasn't who she hoped for. The worst part, none of them even called. Not my parents, not my sister, no text, no FaceTime. No, sorry, we couldn't make it. Just silence, like the day didn't exist. That night I was angry in a way I hadn't been in years. I wasn't even surprised. Just done. I went to our family group chat and typed, "Thanks for remembering your granddaughter's birthday. She had a great time without you." They saw it, I could tell. No one replied. The next morning, I still held out some hope they'd realize how messed up it was. Instead, my sister Lily finally responded with, "It's not like it was a big birthday. 9 isn't even a milestone." I just stared at that message. I didn't even reply. What do you say to someone who thinks a kid's happiness is based on whether the number has a 0 in it? And then, just when I thought I couldn't be more disgusted, the real hit came. Thursday afternoon, I got a notification on my phone. $2,900 withdrawn from my checking account. Not a hold. The money was gone. At first, I thought it was fraud. But when I opened the details and saw where it came from, I felt like an idiot. A week before the party, my dad had called me. Said their plumbing had completely failed and they needed emergency repairs. Said the plumber needed to be paid the same day. I was already stressed, juggling party stuff and work, but he caught me at the right moment. He said it would cost around $600. I told him I'd cover it just temporarily until they sorted it out. I gave him my card, and then, between everything else going on, I forgot to ask for it back. That was on me. But what they did with it, that was on them. I called my dad. No answer. Called again. Nothing. Tried Lily. Nothing. I messaged the group. No response. They went completely dark. So I sent one last message. It was short. Wait for a call from my lawyer. Exactly 10 minutes later, all hell broke loose. Voice messages started flooding in from Lily, freaking out, making it sound like I had crossed the line. My dad started calling my cell over and over. Then my mom finally texted me directly. "Don't do anything crazy. We were going to explain." Explain what? 2 hours later, my dad showed up at my door, holding my card like a peace offering. No apology, no remorse. Just said they decided last minute to go to the Keys with their friends. Said they deserved a break and figured they'd just use the card now and deal with it later. He actually told me he thought I'd understand. I stood in the doorway listening to this man try to justify stealing $2,900 from me 4 days after ignoring his granddaughter's birthday. Like this was normal. Like the problem wasn't what he did, but how I was reacting. I took the card and told him we'd talk later. But there wasn't going to be a later. Something in me had shifted. I wasn't going to play the role they wrote for me anymore. The reliable one. The one who covers rent. Fixes things. Babysits their mistakes. They made their choice. Now it was my turn. After my dad handed me the card like that, a loan would settle things. He didn't even look embarrassed. He just stood there and said they'd booked a last-minute trip to the Keys with some friends and figured it was easier to use my card than deal with banks and credit limits. Said they were planning to tell me once they got back. And the worst part? He said it like I should be understanding. Like this wasn't the first time. He actually said, "We needed it more than you did." I shut the door without replying. I didn't trust myself to say anything that wouldn't make things worse. That night, I stared at the ceiling until 3 o'clock in the morning. I thought about my daughter waiting by the gate. I thought about how they could ignore her birthday like it was nothing, then casually drain my account for a vacation. I thought about every other time I covered for them. Bills, repairs, emergencies, groceries, it all added up. Still, the next day I gave them a chance. I messaged the family chat again, kept it simple. You spent $2,900 that wasn't yours. I expect it back by Friday. Lily read the message and said nothing. My mom replied later that night saying, "We'll work something out after the trip." It's been a hard year, Eliza. We're not in a good place financially. They weren't in a good place financially. They were in the Keys. That same month, they had asked me to help them with new kitchen appliances. I bought them a new dishwasher and stove, $600 out of my pocket. They promised to pay me back, of course. That promise was now sitting somewhere in the sand next to a margarita. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. They never had any intention of paying me back. They assumed I'd let it go, just like I always had. They relied on me for years because I'm the one who doesn't argue, who always steps up. Especially for Lily. She's been in law school for the last year and a half, and I've been paying her rent the entire time, $750 every month, because Mom and Dad said she needed to focus on her studies, because she's doing something important, because I could handle it. So I called the landlord that morning and told him Lily would be responsible for the full rent starting next month. He sounded surprised, but didn't push it, said he'd let her know. Then I dropped a message in the family chat. I'm no longer covering Lily's rent. She can speak with Mom and Dad if she needs help. Nothing for the first hour. Then Lily called. I didn't answer. Then came the messages. My mom said I was being cruel, said I was punishing my sister for something she didn't do, said I was hurting my own family to make a point. But I wasn't punishing anyone. I was done playing the role of the family wallet. I wrote back one sentence. You all had money for a vacation. I'm sure you'll figure out rent. No one replied. 2 days went by. Silence. And then Lily called me again, crying. I still didn't answer. I wasn't being cruel. They were finally going to have to learn how to live without me cleaning up after them. But they weren't ready for that lesson. Not yet. After I stopped paying Lily's rent, I didn't expect gratitude. But I also didn't expect what came next. She messaged me nonstop for 2 days. At first politely, then desperately, then with guilt that didn't even try to hide itself. Said she was already behind in class, that her professors were pressuring her, that this would ruin everything she'd worked for. Said she'd have to drop out if I didn't help. I didn't respond. She kept going. Said she wasn't the one who took the money from my card, that I was being unfair, that I was letting one bad decision by our parents destroy the whole family. Then she dropped the one line I didn't think she'd ever say. If you cared about me even half as much as you care about your daughter, you wouldn't do this. I just sat there staring at it. It wasn't the insult. It was the arrogance. The way she genuinely believed she had the right to my support, like it was a subscription that came with being my sister. As if she'd earned the $750 I'd been wiring every month by simply existing. And then, nothing. The family chat went dead. No one called. No one asked how my daughter was doing. No mention of the birthday. No apology for the money. Just silence, like they were waiting me out. 3 days later, I got a call from my aunt. She never calls me. She hesitated at first, then said she'd been visiting my parents, and something felt off. My dad had apparently cleared out one of their side rooms, the one with my old things, specifically my comic collection. At first, I thought maybe he moved it. I drove over unannounced. No one home. I let myself in. I still had the key, though it felt wrong now. The room was empty, completely empty. A few boxes of junk in the corner, a vacuum. My shelves were gone, my sealed boxes, my collection. It wasn't just comics, it was my childhood. First editions, signed issues, things I'd stood in line for hours to get. Things I'd found in obscure shops and online auctions, carefully packed, labeled, insured. 20 years of history. I texted my dad, "Where is my comic collection?" No response. I called, straight to voicemail. So I left one message. If you've sold or thrown away any part of that collection, I will never forgive you. That's not a threat. That's a fact. That night, he finally texted back. We needed the room. You never came to get it. It was collecting dust. Don't be dramatic. I stared at the screen, waiting for a second message, maybe a just kidding, or don't worry, it's boxed up in the garage. But nothing came. That was it. That was his version of an explanation. He knew what it was worth financially, sure, but more than that, he knew it was mine, that I trusted him with it, that it was one of the few things from my past I still cared about. And he threw it out, or worse, to punish me, over rent. They wanted to hurt me because I stopped covering for them, because I finally said no. So they took something I loved, quietly, behind my back. They'd never seen me angry before, not really, but they were about to, because there was still one thing they were using that belonged to me, my car, and it was about to be theirs no longer. After I realized my comic collection was gone, something inside me went completely still. I didn't rage, I didn't scream, I didn't start some dramatic family blow-up. I just stopped feeling anything toward them. That's probably when it all became real. Not when they stole the money, not when they ignored my daughter's birthday, but when they went into that room and erased 20 years of my life without even telling me. I didn't need confirmation. My dad's message made it clear. We needed the room. Don't be dramatic. They didn't sell it to survive. They didn't accidentally donate a box or misplace it. They just decided it didn't matter, that I didn't matter. What they didn't know was that they'd made their final move. There was one last thing they still had of mine, the SUV. My old but well-maintained vehicle I'd loaned to my dad over a year ago when his broke down. He asked me if he could use it for just a few months. Told me it would only be until he could buy something used. Of course, those few months turned into over a year. He basically claimed it like it was his own. Parked it in their driveway, changed the address on the insurance docs to theirs, treated it like his personal vehicle. But I never signed over the title, and now I was done playing nice. The next morning, I pulled every document I had from the file cabinet. Title, insurance, original registration. All of it still had my name on it. I called the DMV, got everything transferred back into my current address. Called the insurance company, made sure they knew he was no longer a listed driver. Then I arranged for a tow service to be on standby, and I drove over to their house. I didn't text ahead. I didn't knock when I got there. I just walked to the car, unlocked it with the spare key I'd never given them, and started moving stuff out of the back. My dad came outside halfway through, holding a cup of coffee and looking like he thought this was a joke. He asked what I was doing. I told him flatly, taking back my car. You've had it long enough. He laughed like I was being ridiculous, said he needed it, said I couldn't do this to him, told me I was overreacting over a bunch of old books and birthday drama. I stopped what I was doing and looked at him. No, I'm doing this because you took from me and didn't think twice. You let your granddaughter wait for you all day on her birthday. Then you used my card without asking. Then you destroyed something that actually mattered to me. You don't get to have my things anymore. He started raising his voice, asked if I was really willing to throw away our relationship over this. I didn't reply. I just finished clearing out the car, got in, and drove off. I didn't speed. I didn't slam the door. I just left. That night, he called me twice. I ignored both. Then he left a voicemail. Said we needed to talk. Said things had gone too far. Said he wanted to fix it. I listened to the whole thing. And I realized something. He wasn't sorry. He just didn't like losing control. And for the first time, I wasn't giving it back. After I took back the SUV, everything went quiet for a few days. I figured they were regrouping, trying to come up with a new angle, some fresh way to guilt me back into the fold. They'd done it before. Ignore me, then pretend nothing happened. A passive-aggressive reset. But this time it felt different. Not in a good way, just quiet in that way that doesn't feel natural. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like something's coming. It was my mom who broke the silence first. She didn't call to talk. She left a voice message. Calm, rehearsed, like she was writing an email to a client. She said things escalated quickly and that she hoped I'd take some time to reconsider all of this before things become irreparable. She said Dad was just trying to fix things in his own way and that I needed to be the bigger person again. The bigger person. That's what they always said when they wanted me to carry the weight of their screw-ups. I didn't respond. I deleted the message and went on with my day. But I should have known that wasn't the end. 2 nights later, my husband came home from work holding a package that had been left on our doorstep. It had no return address, just my name scribbled across the label in sharp black ink. My dad's handwriting. Inside was a small cardboard box, taped shut. It rattled when I shook it. Heavy, uneven. I opened it. Ashes and scraps of paper. Some were burned to near dust. Others still held bits of color. Letters. Recognizable corners of comic covers. I knew the titles by heart. X-Men #4, The Killing Joke, Detective Comics number 475. A rare Spider-Man crossover I'd won at auction in 20. He'd taken whatever remained of my collection, what hadn't already been thrown out or given away, and burned it. Cremated my past, and delivered it to my front door. No note, no message. It was the most deliberate thing he'd ever done. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat at the kitchen table and stared at the pile of ash like it was a stranger's body. The last real thing I'd had from my younger self. Gone. Not because of an accident, not because of fire damage or flood, but because my father had made a choice. He wanted to make sure I couldn't come back from this. And he was right. He lit the bridge himself. The next morning, I went online, logged into the garage app for the Lexus they still used, the one I had bought outright years ago, and handed to them when their old sedan gave up. I paid for it in full, registered it in my name, insured it. I told them they could use it, but I never signed the title over. I shut off their remote access, called the tow company, scheduled the pickup for that afternoon. The car was gone by 6 o'clock. At 6:42 p.m., my phone rang. Dad. This time I picked up. He didn't ask how I was, didn't mention the comics, didn't apologize. He went straight to demanding answers about the car, accused me of being unstable, ungrateful, a dangerous disappointment to the family. Said I'd embarrassed him, that I was trying to destroy what little we had left. I let him talk. I didn't interrupt. And when he finally stopped long enough to breathe, I said, "You're not well, and I'm not playing along anymore." That hit him. I could hear it. A pause. Then he said, "So that's it? After everything I've done for you?" And I said, "Yes, that's exactly it." He didn't say another word, just hung up. I sat there looking at the quiet screen of my phone, and I felt peace, for the first time in years. But that wasn't the end. I thought I'd finally close the book. Then Lily called, and for the first time, she didn't sound like them. 2 days after the last call with my dad, after the ashes, after the Lexus, I got a call from Lily. I almost didn't answer. Part of me expected more drama, more guilt, more "please disguise his lectures." But something told me to pick up. She didn't sound like herself. No venom, no defensiveness, just quiet. She said, "I know everything's broken, and I know I didn't stop them when I should have." Then she went silent for a moment, like she was deciding whether to keep going. She told me she didn't agree with what they did, said she didn't know they were going to burn the comics, said she found out only after, and by then she didn't even know how to reach out. She was scared I'd block her, or worse, that I'd never speak to her again. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I'm not asking for anything. I just need you to know I don't have them. They don't help me. Not with rent. Not with school. Not with anything. It's just me." She admitted she'd been trying to hold everything together. Class, part-time work, student debt, and she cracked. When I pulled the rent, she panicked. Not because she felt entitled, she said, but because she didn't have another option. And she hadn't told them I was still paying it even then, because they never offered to help. "They think I'm coasting through law school," she said. "They have no idea how much I'm drowning." I didn't say anything for a while. Then she said, "I get why you stopped. I deserve that. But I'm not them. I swear to you, I'm not." It hit different coming from her. She was the only one who hadn't tried to twist things, who hadn't yelled at me or justified anything. She just sounded tired. Real. So I asked, "How much is your rent?" She hesitated, then said, "$750. I nodded. "You'll have it tomorrow." She didn't thank me right away, didn't cry. Just breathed out and said, "I'll pay you back. I don't know when, but I will." I said, "It's not about the money." Because it wasn't. It never had been. It was about the line, the one they crossed and burned and spit on, the one she saw and stepped away from. I'm not naive. I know this doesn't fix everything. But in a family like mine, sometimes a single honest sentence means more than 1,000 fake apologies. So yeah, I'll help her. $750 a month isn't going to ruin me. And she's the only one who didn't ruin herself. It's been a few weeks since everything went down. The ashes, the car, the final call with my dad. Things have been mostly quiet, at least from their side. My mom hasn't called. My dad hasn't tried anything since I shut him down. My husband did run into my mom at the grocery store once. They made eye contact, but my mom turned and walked the other way without saying a word. Lily's been steady. Sends me her rent confirmations every month, even though I never asked her to. She checks in once or twice a week, but never pushes. I can tell she's walking on eggshells, but she's still there, trying. Then something I didn't expect showed up in the mail. A letter, handwritten. No return address, just my name on the front, in shaky, careful cursive. I knew the handwriting instantly. It was my grandfather, my dad's dad. We haven't really spoken in years. Not out of bad blood, just distance. He moved out west after my grandmother passed, and our contact was limited to the occasional Christmas card or a birthday call that felt more like a formality. I wouldn't have even guessed he knew what had happened, but he knew. Apparently, one of my cousins follows Lily on social media and pieced things together from a few cryptic posts. Something about family ties unraveling and the truth not always staying buried. That was enough to get the gossip going. The letter was short, only a page and a half, but every word hit. He didn't shame me. He didn't try to patch things up on their behalf. He told me he was proud, said he knew my father had always been difficult, that he'd watched him hurt people, manipulate, wear masks, that he'd done it even as a son. He said what I did, standing up for myself, for my kid, and refusing to play the family scapegoat, took more strength than most people have. Said he wished he'd had the same courage once. Then, near the end, he wrote, "I've got a spare room. If you ever want to get away for a bit, you're welcome here. No questions, no judgment." He left his number. I haven't called him yet. I don't even know what I'd say. But that letter, it cracked through something I didn't realize had formed. This weight, this numbness. It reminded me that not everyone in the bloodline is broken, and maybe, just maybe, I didn't lose the whole family. Just the wrong parts. It's strange what peace actually feels like when you've never had it. It's not fireworks or some cinematic moment of closure. It's quiet, still, the absence of chaos. I used to think I needed them, that even when they hurt me, they were still my family, that someday, if I just worked harder, gave more, forgave faster, they'd see me differently. They'd love me in a way that didn't require sacrifice as proof. But they didn't. They loved the version of me that kept things running, that patched holes, that paid bills, and answered calls and said, "It's okay," when it wasn't. They didn't know me, and they didn't care to. What they cared about was access to my money, to my time, to my willingness to be guilted into silence. And when that ran out, so did their performance of affection. My husband noticed the shift before I did. He started leaving sticky notes around the house. "Proud of you. You're doing the hard thing. She's lucky to have you." She, being our daughter. He said it without saying it, that I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was showing our girl what boundaries looked like. That love doesn't mean letting people hurt you twice. That family isn't just who you're born to, but who shows up, who stays, who says, "I'm sorry," and means it. And that forgiveness isn't earned with time alone, but with action, with change. It's hard to look at your parents and realize they'll never be the ones to teach you how to be loved. That sometimes you have to teach yourself. Some days I feel okay. Other days I miss them. Or maybe I just miss the idea of them. But every time I think about calling, about reaching out, I remember the ash in the box, the silence on her birthday, the money they didn't ask before they took. And I remember what Lily said, "I'm not them." She's the only one who said that, who showed up even after everything, who didn't ask me to forget, but asked for a chance to do better. And I gave it to her. Not because I'm the bigger person, not because I owe her, but because she asked the right way. And because I saw myself in her, in the way she was drowning quietly, still trying to be enough for people who never lifted her out of the water. We check in now, about school, about stress, sometimes just about nothing. I still pay her rent. But she sends me her receipts like it's a contract, like she's proving herself. She doesn't have to, but I get it. Sometimes we need to prove we're not them, even to ourselves. The holidays came and went. No calls, no texts, no invitation. My mom posted a photo of their Christmas dinner, just her and my dad, smiling in front of a rented fireplace. She captioned it, "Peace and Gratitude." I didn't comment, didn't react, didn't let it touch me. My daughter asked if her grandparents were coming this year. I told her no. She asked why. I said, "Sometimes grown-ups don't know how to be kind, even to the people they're supposed to love." She stared at me for a moment and said, "That's sad." I nodded. "It is." We made our own dinner. Nothing fancy, just the three of us. Her laughter filled the house as she unwrapped a book she'd wanted and a stuffed bear in a red sweater. My husband snapped a picture as she held it close, smiling with her whole face. I looked at that photo later that night and thought, this is family. This is enough. It didn't feel like revenge anymore. It felt like healing. There's a difference between slamming a door and quietly locking it. And what I did, it wasn't anger, it was acceptance. That they were never going to be what I needed. That the love I spent decades chasing was never going to come. And that it wasn't because I wasn't enough. It was because they weren't capable. I used to think setting boundaries was an act of war. That if I said no, I'd be the villain. But sometimes, no is the most loving thing you can say to yourself. No, you can't have my peace. No, you can't borrow my future to pay for your past. No, I will not shrink just to fit your comfort. The silence has been louder than I expected, but it's also been kinder. I've started sleeping better, eating slower, smiling without flinching. My daughter told me the other day that I laugh more now. She said it like it was the most casual observation in the world, but I felt it like a crack of sunlight through years of fog. She's noticing. She sees me, the real me. And for the first time in my life, that feels like enough. The other day, I finally called my grandfather. The letter had been sitting in my drawer for weeks, folded, reread, worn at the edges like something sacred. I didn't know what I was going to say when he picked up, but he answered on the second ring. "Eliza," he said, "just my name, not a trace of judgment, just warmth, like I hadn't waited too long." We talked for almost an hour, about nothing big, the weather, his dog, my job, my daughter's latest obsession with planets and telescopes. He didn't bring up my parents, didn't ask what they'd done, didn't ask for details. He already knew enough. Before we hung up, he said, "That room's still open, if you ever need space to breathe." I told him thank you, not just for the room, but for seeing me, for reminding me that not all roots rot, that some of them go deep and strong and kind, even if they're rare. That night, I sat on the porch with my husband after our daughter went to bed. It was quiet, just the buzz of the street lamps and the soft hum of night. He said, "You've changed." And I asked, "For better or worse?" He smiled, "For real." And maybe that's it. Maybe that's all I ever wanted. Not revenge, not repayment, just to be real. To be loved without having to bleed first. To be heard without having to scream. To exist without being drained. And now I'm building that life. One choice at a time, one wall rebuilt, one door left locked. My family didn't just forget my daughter's birthday, they reminded me who they really were. And I finally believed them. So this is the epilogue, the after, the peace. Not because everything's perfect, but because I stopped trying to fix people who didn't want to be fixed. Because I stopped offering parts of myself to people who never gave anything back. Because I remembered, my daughter deserves better, and so do I.